welcome to everybody. As I said, I'm Fiona Frank from SCOJEC, Scottish Council of Jewish Communities. We're putting on this event with help from our funders, the Netherley and Clarkson Charitable Trust, and with also help from Zoom, and particularly with help from the most wonderful people, Linda, Martin and Barb Taub. So Barb tells me that she's absolutely not a cook. She's an accidental or a self-defense bagel maker. She's an American expat who's normally living in Scotland, although today she's going to be living in Italy. Today she's broadcasting from Italy. I first met her when we put an event on in Arran a few years ago, when we took a fabulous fiddle player out, a fabulous violinist out to Arran. Actually, he was already out in Arran when we put on an event, and he played for us there. We did a house concert in Barb's friend Sharon's house. So we met. We thought there'd be the only two Jews in Arran, and there's loads of Jewish people came, and lots of other people came. And we'd had a couple of other events in Arran, and eventually Barb and Sharon took over, basically ran the events, took on the project, and they have launched a beautiful thing called the Arran Jewish Cultural Association, which was going to have a house concert in March that was cancelled and turned into an online concert. So instead of 30 people, you've got 621 at that one. And then but there were all sorts of plans for this summer for a Kaylee and all kinds of things. So hopefully the Arran Jewish Cultural Association will move from strength to strength. And today she's going to be demonstrating bagel making. And Linda Martin, who's also with us, she and I grew up together in Preston. Anybody else in this room that also grew up with Linda in Preston, wave your hands. Lynn, I'm talking to you. So we all went to Challah together, and it's really lovely to meet her again in my SCOJEC job. She is, and I've got it all written down here what she told us. Linda has had a varied career, a former commercial executive, interior decorator, translator, conservationist, remedial massage therapist, and an ambassador for SCOJEC, and more recently runs a kosher bed and breakfast business in a place which was meant to be her own retirement home in the Highlands, but is now a business. And in contrast to Barb's extra quick bagels, she's going to show us why she's now exploring auto-lysing and the slow rise, and sharing some ideas for shaping your Rosh Hashanah round challah. And by special request from Janet Mundy, we're going to have a quick look at 5-strand plaits as well. And I'm going to be showing a little bit of tech, and there'll be a chance to ask questions at the end. Hi, Debbie. So just to let everyone know that we're recording, and the best view for you all would be speaker view. So if you're on a computer, it's to the top right of your screen. You either get speaker view or gallery view. If you get speaker view, I'm going to mute everybody and then unmute the speakers, unmute the main cooks, and off we go. We're here we have the room till 1, which means that the main event is from 10 till 12, and then we can all stay on longer and talk about our own cooking adventures. So we're going to be starting with Barb. So Barb, unmute yourself and say something, and you should come to the front of the screen. She seems to have left her room there.
Okay. Hello, welcome everybody. So glad to see you. As Fiona mentioned, I am not really a cook at all. Bagels are self-defense because we got to the UK from the States about 10 years ago, and I discovered that a New Yorker's idea of bagels is not what you're going to find in the UK. So my wonderful friend, Dory Walker, has written a cookbook with all kinds of great recipes, but maybe 20 years ago, she developed her bagel recipe and used my kids to practice on, and that's pretty much the one that we're going to be using today. Anybody that wants a copy of it, I'll be happy to send it to you, and I'll ask Fiona to just send it out to everybody after the meeting. You should all have ingredients if you want to cook along. If you don't, that's fine. Just have a watch. And the idea is that I get up in the morning and I want a bagel, and I don't want to get everything on and go drive and get a bagel, which would be impossible anyway. To complicate all of this, we live on Arran, a very small island off the coast of Scotland, and not a bagel-friendly type of place, although everybody is very excited about bagels there. But as if that wasn't enough, about a few weeks ago, my husband said, oh, hey, guess what? I just got offered the chance to live in Italy for a year. So we put the dog in the car and drove here from Glasgow last week. And I'm still getting used to things. One of them is that I don't speak a word of Italian. So I went to the store to buy the ingredients, and yeast is a different beast here. I got everything that had Levito on the label, and it's here. And guess what? None of it's actually yeast. It's all different kinds of things mixed in with everything from ammonia to fake vanilla. I tried several of them, and then luckily I went to the store and found what our grandmothers used, which is, you know, live cake yeast. So I'm going to take two different approaches today. I'm going to show you the very fast method with what in my heart I hope is yeast, but also if you use the old-fashioned yeast either in a package or in live, what you're going to want to do is proof it, make sure that it's actually living. And so you start by mixing that with, I'm going to come up here so you can kind of see it, mix it with water and a little sugar to grow on. You can throw some flour in there, warm water. And then I did this about 10 minutes ago, and I don't know if you can tell, but it's really foamy and clearly live. So that we're going to use. You could use it in bagels, or you could do what I'm going to do, which is when I go to make the challah with Linda, I'll use it. But for the fastest method that I've ever found, you just take your dry flour, put it in your bowl, leave maybe a cupful for working later, and add your salt. I want to say a plug for salt. One of the amazing things to me, because as I said, I have no taste buds, but even I can tell that the better quality of salt you use, the better bagel you'll get. It's really astonishing. So you want a tablespoon of salt, a pretty generous one, and I use this sea salt from Camargue. You can get it if you're lucky enough to live on Arran. Base stores will order it in for you, but whatever you can get, just treat yourself to the best salt that you can. It doesn't take much, and it's a really great thing. And then, wouldn't it have been great if I brought a spoon out here? You can see I'm not an expert cook here. So stir the salt and the flour in as much as you can, and then add your dry yeast, rapid rise bread machine yeast. Add it to that. We're going to pretend that's what this is, although I think it's actually something completely different. But add the yeast and stir up all the dry ingredients together. And then take your 2 cups of water, as hot as you can get, not boiling out of the kettle, but as the very hottest that you can get out of the tap. And you just can't get it too hot. So go ahead and put the hot water in and stir it up to make a nice, soft, probably sticky dough. Give that a couple good stirs. And if it seems like I'm going fast, it's because this really is a good way to get up in the morning and an hour later have fresh hot bagels. And that makes everything worth it. So take your leftover flour, make a little well on your, wherever you like to knead things. I always forget this bit. I like to put the honey in with the water, and since I did with the yeast already, I completely forgot to do it here. You can also, if you forget it completely, just brush it on the top of the bagels when you're done. But it is great. It's really good to have the honey in with it. As you can probably tell from watching me, I have never even seen a cooking show. I don't know any of the top chefs. Well, British Bake Off because I'm human, but other than that, I'm pretty much just, as I said, a desperation baker. So take a little of your dry flour, get all the good stuff out of your bowl, because, you know, it should be bagel, it shouldn't be leftover. That's kind of a sin, isn't it? All right, in it all goes.
There's one question, what kind of flour do you use?
I use, well, in Italy, it turns out they have about 5 million kinds of flours. Not as many as they have olive oil. It's true, there's an entire row of olive oil. But the kind I use here is just the most generic flour I could find because it's apparently super good. In the UK, I use strong bread flour. Again, the best that you can get. If you're in France, you are, well, you're not going to make your own bagels because you could just buy amazing ones. But you are lucky to get great flour, and I have been known to bring it home with me. But if you can, go to a good store and get artisan milled flour that's going to have a lot of good gluten in it. It'll make fabulous bagels, and you will be super happy. But I've made it with the cheapest, most generic plain bag bread flour from Tesco, and it is fabulous. Bagels are incredibly forgiving. So at this point, what I've done is I got everything mixed in, and now I'm going to start to knead. Again, this is something that everybody does differently. I used to make pots, and so anybody who's a potter will recognize that I'm actually wedging this dough, but there are so many different ways. I took a bread class in Paris, and the boulanger, whatever his name was, the chef was very into this kind of stretching kneading where you take your dough and you flop it down, and then you take another half turn and flop it down. And what it does is it stretches out the gluten and gets it all kind of lined up and ready to go. That's fine, whatever works for you. I think, and what I found is that what works for most people is the kind of kneading their mother did. So whatever mom or granny did that works. And as you can see, I'm actually shaking the table. You really want to put your elbows into this. One other thing that I have made a mistake on in the past, take your rings off first. If you don't want to be picking dried dough out of them for the next who knows how long. So you want to keep kneading and add more flour if you need to. Keep kneading until you get a really smooth, elastic kind of dough. And that part almost takes longer than any other thing that you do with the bagel making. You have to really put your back into it and get it going till it's really smooth. But you know a secret? If you don't, you'll still get great bagels. So if the kids are standing there screaming and everybody's starving, and you've got the lox and you've got the cream cheese and the capers are done and the red onions are all cut up, then just throw that in the bowl and let that sucker rise up. So for the bowl, if you're real compulsive, you can wash out the one you're using. I never do because I'm too darn lazy. So I just get a new bowl, rub a little olive oil or butter or something around the bowl before you throw your dough back in. then cover it with a wet cloth and come back, set the timer for half an hour and come back. Everybody in your house is going to whine at you and ask you when those bagels are coming. But in the meantime, you can take your absolute biggest pots and fill them with water and get them started to boil so that they're ready for the next step. So let me grab a little butter for this. And this is nice because the one thing that bagel dough does more than any other dough that I've seen is it can dry out if you don't pay a little attention to it while it's rising. So I line the bowl with a little bit of butter or some olive oil or whatever you've got going. This dough could use about another 5 minutes of kneading, but you know what? We're not going to do it. We are just going to take it like it is, stick it in the bowl, pat it down, and then turn it so that the buttered side faces up. Take a wet cloth, put it over. Back in Erin, I hate people who talk like this, back in the home, but back in Erin, I have this amazing antique baker's table with drawers that you put big pots in to rise down. But here we have a metal bowl and it will sit here, set the timer for half an hour. And while we do that, it's over to Linda. Unless anybody has any questions. All right, your dough's ready. I think that...
well, there was one question. Somebody said, can you add more than a third whole wheat flour?
You know what, what I often do is it's 6 cups of flour, but often I put a third of it as whole wheat. I wouldn't add more, but you can put at least a third of it as whole wheat. You can add more, but bagels are already very dense and chewy, and they become like doorstops at that point. Which, if you like doorstops, you know, might be just the right thing. Okay. Anybody else? I think one thing that is that this house we rented, although it's really nice, it's very lovely, has crap Wi-Fi, and so I just couldn't get it to work in the kitchen. So as bad as all this is, I made some little videos which are even worse, and Fiona's going to try and show those so you can see the process of boiling the bagels and putting the toppings on and so forth. So over to you, Linda.
When do I do that?
After Linda does her piece.
Okay, just tell me what to do now.
After Linda does her piece, if you come back to me, I'll show you this dough that's risen if we've had half an hour. If not, go to the video and you'll see dough that rose for half an hour.
Okay. Thank you, Barb. So Linda, you need to unmute if it seems it's you.
There we are. Hello. Hi, everybody. Hello, people I do know. Hello, Debbie. Hello, Lynn. Hi, Norman. And very nice to meet everybody else. Okay, so thank you for showing us, Barb, this lovely method of hand kneading your dough. I always used to hand knead my dough, but old age and arthritis mean and inheriting my mother's Kenwood chef mean that I now tend to make it in a machine mainly. So today you're going to hear about making challah and why is it called challah and not lechem. Then we're going to have a look at how the recipe from challah varies from normal bread, which we tend to make here in Europe and in Canada and America and wherever. And then discuss a little bit whether to go for a quick mix and a quick rise, such as Barb is doing, or whether to go for a slower rise and just go gently, gently and take things very slow and cool, no heat to make things rise, which is a different way of doing it. So, and then we're going to have a little look at different ways of shaping challah for the Yom Tovim, the high holy days, and for the Sabbath, together with a few new ideas that I've picked up. So why is the Hebrew word for bread is lechem, as we know, or most of us know. And so why is this not called just lechem, bread, and why is it called challah? Well, the word challah actually means to separate, to pull apart, to stand away from. Okay, it sounds like the same word challah for as a bride, but it's spelt differently. It's spelt with a chet instead of with a kof. Okay, so in temple times, it was the custom when mom made dough to take a portion and dedicate it to the Almighty, to take it to the high priests in the temple, and that was the priest's portion. That was there for their use. Okay, that was your sacrifice, as it were. You sacrificed your bit of bread to feed the high priest and give it to them. Since the dispersal, since the destruction of the temple, we haven't done that, of course, yet we still remember, and we still take a portion of any dough that we make of a sufficient quantity in memory of this and say, this is, you know, this is our portion we've pulled apart. This is challah. And that's where the word challah comes from. And so over time, this has just become the common word for the sort of bread, the festive bread that we would use at Sabbath and at festivals, and enriched bread as it has become, according to our own recipes. But if one makes a very small quantity, there's no need to do this. If one makes a medium-sized quantity of dough, you just pull a portion traditionally and will say, this is challah, you know, I'm remembering. But if you make a big batch, which is sort of more than a bag of flour that we buy here, more than I think they say something like 1 3/4 of a kilo, which is more than 3 pounds. Then you would take it and you would say a blessing, and you would bless. I think everybody's had the download. You would say your blessing, Baruch Hashem, Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvah tov, v'tzivonu hafrish challah. And you take your portion, and then you would burn it. Now, it's a bit difficult these days to burn, because most people don't have an open fire. I do, fortunately. And although I had started off by making, well, actually, I only have made a smallish portion, so I needn't take challah. So that's the word, the name, and where it comes from. Now, when it comes to making the bread, I learned how to make bread at my mother's knee. I remember her, I think it was every Thursday, she used to go to my grandmother's, knead her bread by hand, take the challah, throw it on the fire. She'd make plaited loaves, she'd make little bulkis, she used to call them, at my grandmother's house for both households. So she made quite a lot, and the smell of it is wonderful. Then when I was at school and learned how to make bread, it was during a double period at school. So everything had to be done within an hour and a half virtually. So we used very warm water, tried to make everything rise in a warming cupboard, and just hope you got it done in time for the home bell. So I was always used to making very fast bread. However, a couple of years ago, one of the guests who came to stay with me as a bed and breakfast guest, although he wasn't Jewish, he was a Gentile, he was a man of faith, he did know his Bible. And everybody says don't talk religion with strangers. We always talk religion, okay? As the Shema says to you, talk about it, whether you're sitting in your home, walking around. So we talk about it. And I said, the one thing that puzzled me was that if Torah is a blueprint for living, and bread is such an important part of this, how is it that so many people can't eat bread. They're gluten intolerant. Bread makes them ill. To me, this was a dilemma, you know? How can something which is meant to be good for us, how Torah says, break bread, eat bread, and yet people are ill from it? And this man had been an artisan baker. Excuse me. And he said that these days, the wheat which we grow is so different from the original species of wheat, which were, or barley or anything that was grown in the Middle East. We have developed it to have a lot more gluten in it. And it is also different. I mean, even in the last, 10 years that I know of, doing conservation work, whereas before the stubble after cutting wheat would just drop down and, you know, rot into the earth and do good, they've developed the wheat so that it stands firmer, so that the rain doesn't bat it down. So the wheat is so different from what it was. And he said that in Scotland, interestingly, there is a movement for real bread and real grain, and they do research into the old species of grain which would have been grown here hundreds of years ago, and are trying to bring these back in as a crop in Scotland, so that they will be a healthier and a more environmentally friendly source of flour for us, and that we won't have to be importing things from the Russian steppes or plains or whatever, or from Canada so much and all around the world. So there's a very interesting move going in the actual wheat. Also, he said that it was never traditionally meant to be given a quick rise. He said the best way to get a natural rise without using too much yeast, and as we know, too much yeast can cause people candida, internally, and cause problems that way with thrush and one thing and the other. So he said, if one adds water to the flour without adding anything else to begin with, the enzymes in that flour start to react. They will start to turn your starches into sugars. And traditionally, in the old days before people would go to the supermarket and buy yeast, this was how it would then attract yeast from the air and would start getting a risen product slowly. Nowadays, people take a shortcut on this by making a sourdough starter. I mean, they've done this for hundreds of years. We just leave flour out, it picks up yeast from the atmosphere, it's with water, and it works. So he told me to start trying this process, which is known as autolysing. This means that the flour starts developing itself, reacting with itself. So I started to do that. Now, and he said the wetter the better, which is wonderful. It makes wonderful bread, but it does end up with a very, very sticky substance if you're not too careful, especially if you start putting honey in it. So I am now going to pull onto the table some dough which I made earlier in the true Blue Peter fashion. Our friend in Goodyear, Blue Peter is a children's program where they would show you how to make something. They'd show you all the bits and pieces and then miraculously turn around and say, and here is one I made earlier. So I think that we've all followed from Barb the basic way of making a dough. So I'm going to bring this over first to show you. Now, has anybody here, put your hand up, I can see you all. Anybody never made bread? Okay, just Sandra. Right. Okay, and Norman, you've never made bread? You have to come up, I'll give you a lesson. Okay, so, right, if anybody, most of you have made bread, and you know that you'll have used probably the warm method. and you will know how quickly it rises, or hopefully, if you're using that method. This, I used cold water to put on the yeast, what little bit of yeast, the yeast I did, and I left that rising, frothing up for 2 hours before adding it to my to my flour. The flour itself, I actually put into the bowl with water and just generally mixed that together. And as soon as it came into a lump, I then left it. I reserved some water, which I put with the yeast. I put a little bit of the oil in, but I didn't put the eggs in at that stage. And it was a very, very firm dough. I hadn't put any salt in at that point either, because salt, when salt acts on the, Fiona, darling, Fiona, yeah. You can hear me. Fiona, I find it very off-putting talking to myself. Could I go back into the gallery view?
Sure, you can click on gallery
or not, view. Or can I? Okay, I'll just ignore myself then.
Linda, you can click on gallery view and have
good. And everybody else can just see me. Oh, that's bad. I find it so it's awful not being able to see all you lovely people. I can't be doing with it. So where was I? Yeah. So when I made this, I put water in the bowl first, added all the flour. I should possibly have not used all the water, but I reserved some of the water to go with the yeast, which I actually left, as I say, for about 2 hours. I mixed the flour with a dough hook on my Kenwood chef to a very solid dough, covered it over, and I left that for a couple of hours, okay? This was all done not with any warm water, not with any heat. Then I added it all together. Was it a bit stiff? So then I added a bit more water, and then it was too sloppy, so then I did a bit more flour. In the end, I ended up with a dough which was so, now I'm going to tilt down. You've seen enough of me. You're now going to see the table. Okay, can everybody see? Yeah? So this has ended up with a lovely, stretchy, can you see the stretch on this dough? Can you see this wonderful, yeah? Can you see that? How lovely and stretchy it is. But it is very sticky. Now, I am now going to clear the table, put a little bit of flour on it, and start doing some shaping. Okay, tuck my hair away, move things aside. Now, if anybody wants later to see me actually making some, let me see if I can get this a bit better. How are we going to do this? Okay, can everybody see? Okay, good. Right, I'm going to take some flour and I'm going to sprinkle it on here first. So this dough has had overnight in the fridge. Right, I'm going to just pull him out now. Ooh, out we come. Oi, that's lovely. That is lovely. Okay, now had I done double this quantity, okay, more than 3 pounds or more than 1.65 kilos, as soon as it was pulled together, I would then have taken a portion and I would have said, this is challah. I would have wrapped it in a tissue and thrown it on my open fire. Okay, if you don't have an open fire and if you're religious and wish to take challah when you've made a big batch, then wrap it in perhaps in cling film, put it in your oven and let it just absolutely burn to a crisp. Okay, let it char, let it burn. Right, now this...
Is cling film safe to put in the oven, Linda?
Sorry, well, that's what they say. I've never had to do it because I burn. So this is a very sticky, lovely dough. Okay, and what I'm doing now is what you call knocking back. Right, now if you, I've made it wetter, because this is the other thing the gentleman said, he said the wetter the better. Okay, and the less you muck around with it, the better as well. But to say it was so wet, this really is coming in nicely. Now, have we got the lady here who was wanting a 5-strand or not? Or is she? Hello? Oh, it was you. Hi. Right. Oh, goodness me. Are you with the lady who's in Canada, in America?
No, I'm in Edinburgh, and I'm really glad you're doing this now because I have to leave early.
Oh, you have got to leave early. Right. Well, if you've got to leave early, is everybody happy if I show how to do a 5-strand? Okay, a 5-strand flat. I'm going to do a smallish one. Okay. One day I shall go to, what are they called, Lakeland Plastics, and treat myself to a proper blade for cutting the dough, which I haven't yet got. 1, 2, 3. Oh, more flour. There we go. Ooh. 1, 2, 3. They're not going to be exactly the same size, I don't think, but it doesn't matter. 3, 4. Oi. And another one. 5. Okay, I'm going to take 5 lumps of bread. Ideally, they should all be a similar size, but more important than a similar weight is the length, get a similar length. Now, there are different ways. It's very, very easy. It's Sandra, is it? I haven't got my glasses. Where am I? Yeah. Okay, it's very, very easy to do a sort of a flat weave. It gets a little bit more complicated if you want to add height and bulk to your challah loaf. But one very lovely way of doing something which is quite spectacular is to do perhaps a 5-strand or a 6-strand challah loaf, and then also do a 3-strand. Take your rolling pin, squash a groove in the center of the larger loaf, and just lay your 3-strand over the top. You can do that with 2 3-strands even. It's fine, you know, it's not too difficult. Right, how are we doing? Am I getting there? I'm getting there. I think this will suffice for the purpose. A bit more onto that one, I think. A bit less on that one. And there we go. Talk amongst yourselves, children. We'll be in here in a second. I used to make challah regularly. When I first came up to Scotland, I was trailer trash. Whilst my house was being built, I spent a summer living in a caravan, which was great fun. And it was a very, very hot summer. And you wouldn't believe, the speed at which my challah rose was incredible. It made the most wonderful bread. Now, right, we have, can everybody see this? We have 5 strands, right? I like to keep the outer ones out at the side, okay? Then I know these are my main ones for working with, right? The outside ones. So the simplest way of doing a 5-strand is to make sure it's all squeezed. Take the outside on one side. This is on my left, your right, okay, isn't it? I think I can't remember. So take the outer one, bring it over 2, spread them out. Bring the next outer one, bring it over 2. Get the outside one, bring it over 2. Get the outside, 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 bring it over 2. Now, can you see that okay? Give me a thumbs up. Of course, you're on mute if you are. Absolutely super. So that is the way to do a 5-strand. Outside over 2, outside over 2. I'm going to undo this now. I saw somebody doing one on YouTube, which is a great source of information. And believe me, I've got so many different weaves in my head. I'm going to use a crib sheet. And I haven't tried this one, but I saw a guy, he wasn't actually explaining it. He was a professional baker doing it so quickly, you can't believe. Now, what did he do? He took number five, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he took number 5, he took it right over the 3. Okay, I'm going to move them a bit close together. 3. Then he took number 1 over 2 to become 3. And this is giving a bit more height. Okay, then repeat. Okay, the same again. I think he did it this way. 1 over 3, right? And this other one over 2. This one over 3, this one over 2. This one over 3, this one over 2. This one over 3, this one over 2. And I don't know if you can see, but can you see? This one is a slightly higher, gives a slightly higher loaf. And I think actually that I prefer that to the straightforward flat, because whereas with the first one, you're just bringing it over one layer only each time of strands, you know, this one over 2, this one over 2. With this method, this one over 3, this one over 2, and repeating it. When you're coming over 2, you seem to be coming over one that has just come over, so you're getting a triple height in your loaf. Okay, is that okay? Hands up if anybody's got any questions at this point and needs to be unmuted. Can you see this at all, anybody? No, everybody's okay. Right, now, what I think I'm going to do, because it is going to be, whoopla, beyond turf, let me unstrand this again as well. I think that I'm going to make and show you how to make, in fact, let's put it all together. I'm going to show you how to make a sort of some different shapes for Yom Tov, okay? Oh, do forgive me. Our friend in Gujarat, you won't speak Hebrew at all? No? Shake your head, nod your head. No, I don't know. But I must apologize if I'm using any Hebrew or Yiddish phrases which not everybody understands.
No problem at all.
Oh, good.
I will get to learn something. I will get to learn some new words.
Well, if you wish. Okay. The word for good in Hebrew is Taub. 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 And the word for day is Yom. So a holy day or a good day is known as a Yom, which is a day. The noun comes first, and Tov, meaning good, afterwards. So it is Yom Tov. Okay?
Okay.
So now we have got just a long strand. The simplest way to make a round challah. In fact, I'm going to bit more flour. It's sticky, 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 sticky. Quite honestly, if I did no more than that, right, and then did an egg wash, okay, that would be a nice, rise up to be a nice challah for Yom Tov, okay? What I could also do with my round challah would be to make a couronne, a crown. Now, where's my little jar gone? Hang on, I've lost a jar. I had a jar. Here we are. One idea which I saw was if when you let your bread rise, you make it around like this, and you put a jar in the middle, let it rise, okay, until it's doubled in size. You then, and bake it as it is, you would then have a jar in which to put honey, okay, in which you can pull your bread, yeah, and dip into your honey. There we go. Now, sometimes it's nice to add a little something to your bread.
But
So,
Linda, you don't bake the glass in the oven.
well, it's the first time I've done it. If not, then your jar will, you know, not fit. It'll sort of fill in on itself, I think. I'm going to try it with this, but I am going to use either a Kilner jar or a jam jar. I mean, a jam jar will take tremendous heat, so I'm hoping that a jam jar will do it. Or a ramekin dish, the sort of dish that you would put into the oven anyway, something that's oven proof. But I'm trusting that a jam jar will be oven proof, yeah? Even at 200 degrees. Okay, when you've shaped your bread, I'm just going to do half of this as an experiment for myself, I think. Okay, when you've shaped your bread, what you would do then is to put it onto your baking tray, okay, and cover it. What I tend to do is to put it in a big plastic bag, even a bin liner, okay? Pop it in a bin liner and fluff it up and seal it round so that it's in what you want is for your bread to be in a nice moist atmosphere. But before doing that, I would just coat it. Look at that, how's that for it? Isn't that good? Isn't that a nice stringy bit of dough? I would give it a coating just with a little bit of an egg wash. Now, I'm going to do something totally different. I've never done this before. We're all playing. Cookery should be fun, okay? Making cakes is a science. When you make cakes, it's absolutely got to be perfect, right? But what I'm going to do here, I've never done this before, all right, folks, but I think it's going to work. Because it's New Year, I'm going to put some apple in this, right? Why not? Apple is traditional at our Jewish New Year. It's fruitful, it's sweet. We eat it with honey, okay, in the hope of a sweet and fruitful year ahead. So apples are very traditional. Unfortunately, you know, over here, they come into season, that's great. The other thing which is very popular this time of year are pomegranates, full of seeds. They say that there are as many seeds in a pomegranate as there are, this is another word for you, mitzvot in the Torah, in our book of instructions of how we live. So, all right, here's an apple I just peeled a little while ago. Excuse me. I'm going to grate some apple, okay? And I'm going to sprinkle this apple into this long flat sausage that I've made. Going to then cut it into 3 and make a 3-strand plait, which I will then coil around the jar, pop it on a tray, and hopefully I will be making myself a nice apple challah to have at the Jewish New Year. And the Jewish New Year is not a correct translation, it's the head of the year. Rosh is the Hebrew word meaning head. Shana is the Hebrew word for year, for anyone who doesn't speak Hebrew, even the little that I do. Okay, so we're going to have, I've got 3 little sections here. Okay, I'm going to try and enclose this apple. Everybody see that? Voila. I don't know, what do you think? Shall I add a little bit of sugar? A bit of spice? Might be nice, mightn't it?
Put some raisins in.
Hey?
Put some raisins in. Or sultanas.
Sultanas?
Yeah.
I know my place. I'll do as I'm told. Was that Debbie, I think, that said that?
No, it's Marguerite.
Hello.
You haven't met me yet. Hi.
Yeah, good idea. Why not? Why not? Oh, that my phone's going. I'll ignore it. Unless I just turn it off. What do you think, folks? Right. So having done that, a little bit of cinnamon as well. Okay, let's put a bit of spice on as well. Ooh. And now I've got to tell you, I gave everybody a recipe which called for quite a lot of honey in it for a special challah for New Year. Excuse me whilst I get my sugar. But I generally, I'm fat, let's admit it, I'm fat. And so I cut down on the honey when I made mine and only put 1 tablespoonful of honey instead of 3. The calories I can do without, isn't that true, Norman? Right, I'm now covering it over, very easy to cover over, it's so stretchy. Don't speak too soon. Okay, so I'm covering it over, comme ça. I hope everybody was able to download the attachments which were sent to you because they show some lovely designs for different challah. And you can get wonderful ideas on YouTube as well. 1, 2, 3 and a bit. So it's 1, just a bit over, 2 and a bit over. Right, so these should be more or less the same size. I've now got a wet table instead of a dry table. Depending on the sort of bread one is making, at the moment I'm adding flour to stop it sticking. But sometimes when I make, say, a focaccia or an Italian bread, then I'll put oil on my worktop rather than flour to stop it sticking. All depends on the sort of bread you're making. So, okay, so here we are. So I've got 1 sausage. Hoopla. Now, although generally speaking, a lot of people will, whoopsie-daisy, don't come out. Don't you come out. Although people will generally squeeze an end together and just make their plait, if when you're making your plait, you start in the middle, okay, and then work to the ends, you will get a slightly better shape. Now, I can't pretend to be the best at shaping things. Come on, out you come. Out you come. There we go. Persuade it, persuade it, persuade it, persuade it. Okay, so, but I think I'd better just do it. Ooh, hang on a minute. No, it's not going to work. I'm going to squeeze them together. Will you excuse me? Hello? I'm just on a Zoom call at the moment. Could you call me back, please, in half an hour? Thank you. There we go. You never know if it's anything urgent. There was one time whenever I was doing something, I would never answer the phone, okay? And one day, this was during the time when I was a remedial therapist, I had a patient and I just finished doing one particular limb, which was troublesome to him, and the phone went. And whereas normally I'd say, nah, let it ring, I answered it. And it was a neighbour at the farm 2 fields away who had just amputated his thumb. So it was a good job I answered. So I hope you'll forgive me for zooming away like that. Now this 111, just a simple plait, bringing the outside one to the middle, 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 outside one to the middle. And this, I'm going to put on a tray and surround. My tray being here. Okay? Okay, I'm just going to grease the tray lightly with a little oil. I've used oil in making my challah rather than butter, because for anyone who's watching who is not Jewish and doesn't know, we don't mix milk products with meat products. And if one were to be having a meat meal, one would not want to have any dairy products in one's bread. Right, so now, let's just drape this round here, bring it round, okay? I'm hoping that this will be big enough. So now we've got a simple plait surrounding a jar. This has got apples in. So I'm going to have to leave this now until it rises. Before I leave it, I'm going to give it a little egg wash. When we use eggs, traditionally, we have to make sure that there is no blood in the egg because we don't consume blood. So we crack our eggs, separate them, we have a look-see and make sure that there is no blood in. I'll show you how to do it. If you live near a kosher shop, you will probably be able to buy white eggs which have been put before a bright light. A white shelled egg will show any impurities within the egg, so you can buy kosher eggs. Two glasses. One egg. Gently, gently. I inspect it. No blood in it. I can use it. The white I'll use for cakes later. I add a little water to the egg. Give it a stir. Is it just to make it more liquid? And brush it round. Okay. Now, being on my own, as I am, if I keep on just making very big loaves, then, you know, I'm going to be even more enormous than I am. I'll be stuffed. So what I'm going to make next is a small breakfast loaf. I'm going to just cover this over. Let me think what with at the moment. Let me just get a bag. slip that into a bag, fluff it up, put it on one side until it rises to twice its size. Once it's risen to twice its size, I will then wash it again over with a little more egg very gently so that I don't squash the dough back down again after it's risen. Then I shall put it into a very hot oven at 200 degrees centigrade. After 10 minutes with one this size, I'll turn it down maybe to 180, 190 and let it continue to cook. And I would imagine that being a circle with a hole in the middle will not take as long to cook as if it were a solid loaf. So I think it'll probably be done within half an hour. Okay? Now I mentioned that pomegranates are also very traditional at this time of year. Oopla, oopla, oopla. Let me bring my dough here again. Okay, so I thought it might be rather nice to make, I don't know if it's going to be a bit too thick, a bit too sloppy rather. I thought it would be rather nice to make a breakfast roll or two in the shape of pomegranate, right? So I'm going to take a little bit off for the tops. Ooh. And I think this will make probably two rolls for me, 2 buns. Goodness me, this is stretchy. I'm going to cut that in half. I'm going to make 2 buns, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to shake in when I do this final kneading, okay, this final shaping. I'm going to put in some pomegranate seeds, just a few, okay, and with this one, I'm going to put in some pomegranate seeds, so that when these breakfast rolls are done, you'll just get a nice little bit of surprise, a little bit of beautiful ruby red colour. There we go. Again, if you wanted to put some sugar on, be my guest, but there's already honey in the dough, so you probably wouldn't need, okay? So, scoop that up, make it round, okay? Squeeze him a bit more there. Ooh, turn him over. Okay.
You two could have a regular cookery television program. It's enthralling.
Oh, bless you. Okay, so that's that. Hopefully that's going to rise up into a circle. If you make your dough a little bit drier, now I need scissors. I've got a horrible feeling I left my cookery scissors downstairs. I have 3 kitchens, incidentally. One for milk, I mentioned that we keep milk and meat separate, yeah? So I have one section for milk, one section for meat. And I joke that the downstairs one, which actually I'd intended to have for either a Passover or allergy. No good, hang on a minute. Right. I joke that that's the one for another Jewish word, another Hebrew word, treif, forbidden foods. I'm just going to get some scissors, which I probably won't be able to find. Scissors. Yep, I've got some. Okay, and this little thing I'm going to snip, whoops-a-daisy, snip this way. Oh, it's so sticky. Snip. You see, if I'd made the dough the traditional way, it would not be as stretchy and it wouldn't be as sloppy, but it wouldn't rise as nicely either. Okay, so that's my little pomegranate. Yeah, you see it? Is that all right? What do you think? Any good?
It's beautiful.
So, ooh-la, goodness me. Now, oh, so sticky. As I say, the reason it's so stretchy is because of the way that I made it. Now, I don't know any of you who've made bread yourselves in the past, whether you found it difficult to get such a stretchy dough, but quite honestly, this is as stretchy as one would make, you have one where you're making a pizza, where they toss them in the air and stretch them around. Okay, so here we go. That's my circle. Here's my little bobble for the top. A little bit of egg to make him stick. I think maybe if I oiled my scissors. Let's see if it doesn't stick as much if I've oiled my scissors. This is an experiment, okay? Aha! Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you have your blades slightly oiled, these cut through better. I've learned something myself new today. We're always learning. Right, a little bit of egg wash. There we go. A little bit of egg wash. This is so that you don't get a crust drying out, okay, whilst it rises, okay? And there I have two lovely little need a cup of tea. Pomegranate rolls ready for my breakfast. I'm going to switch the oven on now. I'm going to put these on a tray, cover them over with cling film. What I sometimes do, if I haven't got a big plastic bag, I might put some cling film, or what's the American word for it? There's another word for the plastic film, slightly oiled over it, which would help it to not stick and cover it so it rises in a humid atmosphere. Or sometimes I've also actually put it on a tray and then I just put a deep baking tin over, yeah? So anything just to keep it protected from flies, to keep it moist, keep it warm, and away we go. Fiona, how are we doing with Taub? Is Taub, whoopla, uppicker. Is Taub now, how's her dough going? Is it any better for shaping and doing? Is she ready to move on?
Is Barb, are you ready to do your bit next?
Yes or no?
Barb will need to unmute. I can't see what, sorry. Or you can just put
okay,
your...
I'm going to go get another tin and pop these on. I'm going to switch my oven on and hopefully, oh, because they've got to rise. So it's going to be, you know, I'd leave it half an hour. As I say, I don't think you can do bread quickly. Bagels maybe, but slower the better. Okay. I'm going off now to go and pop these on a tray, folks.
Thank you so much. To give Brenda a bit, unmute and give her a bit of a round of applause for the first part. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure so far. Okay, we'll be back in a second.
So Barb, are you ready to go on? I think if you are, I think we should all have about a minute to stand up and stretch away from the screen and then come to you. Are you happy to?
Let's take a quick rest.
Okay.
That would be fine.
See you all in a minute then.
Right. Fiona, was Sharon able to get on?
Yes, Sharon's here.
Oh, okay, great. Couldn't tell.
Hello, Norman. Give us a wave. You're on mute at the moment, Norman. We'll have a good chat later when this is all over. I'm going to go and put the kettle on, have a cup of tea. Norman, could you give a nod? Are you able to stay online for a bit longer? Okay, I'll go and get this lot on and we'll try and talk. Lynn, where's Lynn gone to? Hi, Lynn. I haven't spoken to Lynn for so long either, Lynn, my darling.
Hi, lovely to see you. This is a really good session.
Yeah, I hope I'll see you again. I didn't get into Preston when I was down in Manchester. I wanted to go down to the cemetery, but I didn't manage to make it with the COVID. So I don't know whether you're going down to see your father's.
We've got my mum's, hopefully we've got mum's stone setting.
Okay, will you just...
Next month, but we've had dad's grave cleaned.
Yeah, I've got a feeling my parents were next to your father's. I think they're next door to each other, aren't they?
either next door or at the back. I'll have a look when we
Yeah,
go.
I think they're adjacent. More
It's
or less.
Flo and Morris,
Let
isn't
me know if
it?
anything needs doing on my lot, will you, love?
Of
Because
course I
didn't manage to
will.
get there. Okay, thanks. Right, let me go and get these covered.
Have you had a
Hi,
stretch?
Barb.
Have you had a stretch? Are
I'm
we
here.
bagels?
Hey, Sharon.
Hi, Sharon. So I'm going to spotlight Barb. Off we go.
Oh, okay. Should I get going?
Yes.
As I think I mentioned before, I don't really have Wi-Fi out in the kitchen or any place except right here where I'm standing. So I tried to do some videos of the next bit. Here's the dough that we had going before. As you can see, it did raise up really nicely, and you can do the 2-finger test, and it holds the spot so you can see it's ready to go. And I will let Fiona take it from some videos from there, and we'll see if that works. And if it doesn't, I don't know what to do. Here's the here's some finished bagels that I made earlier. So live virtually that way. So,
Okay, so
Fiona.
shall I show the videos now?
Yes, yes, and they should be in some kind of order, hopefully,
Okay.
if that works. And I'm sorry about this, but.
Okay, number one.
One good test is to just poke 2 fingers in, about, knuckle deep, and if it holds the indentation, which this does, then it's good to go. So you just take your nice big pot of dough, or you can punch it down first, which is super fun. Put it on a little bit of a flour surface, and this recipe makes 12 pretty good sized bagels. So just cut this up into 12 little rounds. And it's good if they can be a little more even than these are, but you can even it up when you're done. So there are 2 schools of thought on shaping the actual bagels. Well, 3 if you ask my friend Heather, who wants to know why they even have to be round, but take it from me, they have to be round. One way is to roll it. You start in the middle, roll toward the edge, flip it over, start in the middle, roll toward the other edge, and then you just press the 2 loops together. The advantage of that is that the surface is a lot smoother and has more surface integrity. My children insist that the only way to make a bagel is to poke your thumb in the middle and just shape it out to the edges as a round bagel, and that works too. I just happen to prefer the other way. So again, you start in the middle, roll toward the edge. Get a good roll, because as you cook it, it will tend to close in the middle, and it's not a bagel unless there's at least a token hole in the middle. So put those out, and while you're doing this, you've got your water boiling, and so as soon as you've done this, you usually cover it. I usually cover them with the damp towel that I put over the dough when it was rising, and let them have a few minutes to rise up. That gives the gluten a chance to settle down too, which helps get that nice bready texture to it. The first thing you need to do is check the dough, make sure.
Okay, that's the first one. And now we'll go on to the second one. Video number 2. Here.
So after they've risen a little bit,
Oh, is that the right
doesn't
one?
take much. Just bring them over to your boiling water. And drop them in. The important thing is to not let them crowd the pan. So I'd put in 3, 4 is the most if you have a larger pan, but no more than that. They get 2 minutes on a side, and then you flip them over 2 more minutes and set them aside and let them drain. It's good to use a cookie sheet with baking paper as a liner. Otherwise, just use a regular cookie sheet and grease it. So after they've risen a little bit,
You've got
it doesn't take much.
self-starting. That was number 2. So we go to number 3, which is here.
Okay, when your timer goes off, I usually just go ahead and set it again. And then, as you can see, they're quite a bit larger already, and that's only on the first side. We've got one more side to do. This boiling is really the bagel secret. I don't know who thought it up, but it's kind of a brilliant thing. My friend Leah reminded me that there are actually 3 baking steps to the purest bagel, because some people broil it to get that nice shiny finish, but I promised you speed bagels, so what we'll do is brush the tops with an egg wash and then put our toppings on, or leave them plain if you prefer them that way, and then we just bake them quickly and they are done. So once you get good at this, you can go from waking up in the morning and thinking bagels would be good to eating them within an hour. And that's kind of appealing even if you live in a place where you can get bagels.
Okay, so number 4. Number 3, number 4.
So when your timer goes off, just put your bagels on the cookie sheet for now, or if you happen to have a extra large size kitchen. Oh, and see the big puddles there? What you really want is a slotted spoon, something which I so don't have in this rented house. So obviously I will be replacing this brown paper before I bake, but for now it will be. So there's our first half of the bagel batch done. I'll just boil the others and we'll be ready to bake. Stop.
4. And number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, we're on the home stretch. You take your pastry brush, which of course I don't have because I had a really good idea, which was to move to another country 1 week before doing this. But brush some egg that you've beaten up. Just 1 egg is going to do the whole batch, don't worry about it. And brush it over all the bagels if you can. This gives it a really nice, shiny, crispy finish. And also, as an added bonus, it helps your toppings stick really well. So at this point you want to make sure that your oven is all the way heated. We mentioned before that it should be at 190C or gas mark 5. For those of you who are in the States, that would be 375F. And so it's a pretty good hot oven, but not broiling. As I said, we're going to as long as Leah's not listening, we're going to skip the broiling step and do our little cheat with the egg wash, which I actually personally like. You can put a little honey in the wash too sometimes, and that just gives a kind of a sweet finish to it. We're not doing that today. So a really popular topping is poppy seeds, very traditional. And it seems like we never get enough poppy seed bagels, but here we are. You'll want to leave some plain because there are always those purists. My father-in-law, who I think is going to be watching the recorded version of this, goes for cracked pepper on his bagels, which is just all kinds of wrong as far as I'm concerned, but he loves it.
You've got a great production editor
You want
here.
to leave some plain, of course, and purists again will shudder at this, but there are always people who like the cinnamon bagels. This was when we did our class on Aaron. Cinnamon was the most popular, and of course nothing smells like a cinnamon bagel baking. Oh my gosh, it's so good. So your oven is heated. Just pop this in for 30 minutes. Keep an eye on it because every oven's different and you never know how quickly yours will go. Oh, you know what? I forgot one important thing, which is, well, we'll go for that next time. You can put the blackened sesame seeds on, which are an enormous treat, and I found in the grocery store here, but then I forgot to put them on. We'll get those next time. So 30 minutes. Okay.
That was number 3. What was that, number 4?
No, it was number 5.
Okay, so we're on to number 6, which is only a short one.
It's time for the moment of truth. You can take a look at our beautiful bagels as they come out of the oven.
Woo.
It's time for the moment of truth.
And now the final one.
And there it is. Slice them. Slap on that cream cheese. Maybe some lox if you're really lucky. And if you're strong, you'll wait till they cool, but I'm never that strong. How about you?
Woo.
So that's it. Bagels.
Unmute and applause. That was incredible.
Real.
Brava.
Well, the great thing is you can do them quickly and they're really good. So I hope everybody has a great time making your own bagels. Send me pictures if you do.
That is just absolutely fabulous. And we've still got some more of Linda to come. But have we got some? I'm just going to take the spotlight from Barb so that we can all go on to gallery view. And have we got any questions or comments for Barb before we go back to Linda and some more Challah stories?
Can you freeze the dough for if you don't want to do 12 bagels or don't want to do all the challah at once?
You know, you can. It's not as great, but you can definitely freeze it. You can freeze cooked bagels too. What I've never had good luck with is freezing boiled bagels, and I don't know why. It just doesn't seem to work out that way, unfortunately.
Can you use whole grain flour?
Yes, as I said before, I often use about 1/3 of the flour whole grain, and it's really good. If you go much higher than that, then the bagels turn into kind of like little lead balls.
Okay,
but you
thank
can definitely do that, and it's good. There are lots of other variations. I mean, anybody that's been to a good bagel store, you can mix in dried fruits like raisins. I like dried cranberries. If you have a Costco nearby, they sell this amazing stuff called topping, which is full of dried cranberries, nuts like almonds and pomegranate seeds and stuff like that. And you can mix that in. It is so good. There's also, if you can find a proper beef hot dog, kosher hot dog, you can take the long strips of bagel dough, wind it around the dog, cover it with poppy seeds or something, and bake that. And oh my God, it is so good. I'm like drooling just thinking about it. But those are rare things. Costco does sell them though. They sell the Sinai ones, and they're really good. So I'm trying to think what other things you can do with the bagels. They're really, they're really forgiving. You can do almost anything you want with them. Does anybody have a particular topping that they like?
Garlic.
I like sun-dried tomato. And
sun-dried tomato is really good. Garlic is good. You can buy the dried, the fried onions. They come in the health food store. Those are good. Here are the blackened sesame seeds, and they are. Let me see if I can put that up close. Oh gosh, these have just a wonderful flavor. I thought I would not like anything more than poppy seeds, but these are good. So there are just so many different things you can do.
Are your temperatures, are your temperatures for an ordinary oven or a fan oven?
I'm sorry, they're for a fan oven. Thank you for saying that. I never think of an ordinary oven anymore. So if you have an ordinary oven, you want to do 10 degrees hotter. Make it 200.
A couple of years ago, I had some Chinese people staying, and we made pancakes for Chinese New Year, and you boil them. And I didn't realize I was doing an Ashkenazi thing. I thought I was doing a weirdly foreign Chinese thing.
Yeah, and there are whole chains of restaurants now that sell the dumplings that are really good, but I don't know how to make them. And some things are just, I just do better buying anyway.
Okay, I was interested.
Over to you, Linda. Yeah.
Yeah, I was interested to see that Mary Smith and her partner there were baking along with you, Barb. I don't know whether you were on gallery view and saw that, but I just wonder how they got on with mixing their dough, and are they now waiting for that just to boil up, or did they actually manage to do the boiling yet? Mary?
No, we haven't managed to do the boiling yet. The 2-finger test shows that we're not quite ready.
It's not fully proved, but it is.
It's getting there.
Woo, all right.
I never saw that quite.
So,
what are you going to put on top?
What we're going to put on them?
Well, we have some black sesame seeds actually.
All right.
Yeah.
You'll be happy. They're good. Okay.
Okay, so back to Linda for the last part of the bagel story.
Which is what? Hello, you're ahead of me. What am I meant to be doing now? Were you thinking that I should make some bread, or what do you want me?
I've got some photographs here that you asked me to show.
Sorry?
I've got some photographs that you asked me to show.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, that was actually on I forgot all about that. I just got on making them. Yeah, you may have seen, have you all seen the designs which were sent out for how to do different plaiting in a round? Again, I'm not on gallery view. I'm going to go on gallery view. But I sent some photographs just so that you can see whether or not your dough has been kneaded enough. Do you want to show that one of the window pane test, Fiona? All right, I could,
hang on a sec. I could do that. I've got the
Show me what you've got, and I'll tell you what it is.
Right, fine. This is what
you show me yours, and I'll.
This is what you asked me to show. Hang on a sec. I haven't got yours. I've sent that thing out to everybody now. Some people weren't in time because they only registered late. But I've sent it on to everyone now. So
yeah, okay. Well, this is a photograph of when I had what we call autolyzed the dough. I'd reserved a tablespoonful of water to go with the yeast, and I had put the yeast with a tablespoonful of honey into the glass bowl at the front, which you can see, okay, and I had left that for 2 hours, right, to go frothy. The rest of the water, and I think I also put the oil, well, part of the oil I put in the bottom of the bowl, added all the flour, and with the dough hook there, or you can also do it by hand, I had just combined the water and the flour together. Just mix the dough, just so that it all stuck in a lump. And as you can see, that really is quite a hard, firm lump of dough. It stayed on there for quite a while before dropping off. So that's the stage I got it to. Then I took it out of the machine, into the bowl, covered it over with a bit of film and a towel, kept it moist and that. And I didn't keep it warm. I then put it in the fridge, and I just left it. Oh no, did I? I think I left it in the fridge for a couple of hours. That's right. And I just left it anything from 30 minutes to an hour at room temperature or longer in the fridge. And this is the stage where the enzymes in the flour start to work, okay? I then put it all back into the bowl, and I have got to say, you've got to be, what I do in future is add the yeast mixture a little at a time. Otherwise, once you turn on, it flies everywhere. Okay, so be careful on that one. The next, and I mixed it all in. So then I mixed it all in. As I say, I would add the yeast a little at a time, okay? And it became very, very stretchy. The gluten really worked beautifully, as you can see there. That's just a sort of stretch, and you saw it when it was on the table, how stretchy the dough was. So after the autolyzing, I then added the egg and the yeast mixture. I found it was a little bit too sloppy, so I threw in a bit more flour. But since most of the flour had autolyzed, it was still making an absolutely, excuse me, it was still making an absolutely wonderful stretch. Next photo.
And the next photo?
The next photo. So the way to really tell whether you've got it right is that if you stretch some of the dough out between your fingers, okay, you get this, what they call the window pane test. And that shows that your gluten has really worked, and your dough is really nice and stretchy. Okay, I think that's it for the photos. The other thing that I forgot to say was that when you put your to test whether your loaf is baked, I'd say the times are a guideline. It all depends on your oven. But when a loaf is baked, when you take it out and turn it upside down and give it a little tap on its bottom, it should sound quite hollow. Okay. So yeah, so I think that's it. Is everybody happy with my section? I've just actually thrown the rest of the dough in the freezer. Or is there anything else that you would like me to talk about or demonstrate on challah making?
Oh, I have one quick question, and this is something probably really obvious, but when you come to the end of the braiding, do you cut off the extra bits or tuck them under?
I personally tuck them under. I just tuck them under. Yeah, yeah. Okay. And also what I sometimes used to do was, if I had a 3 braid, I didn't want to risk it too much with all that fruit in, but I will lay the 3 braids alongside each other, and instead of starting at the top, because quite often you will end up with a great big thick lump at the top and a thin lump at the bottom, when you roll them, I didn't do it terribly well this time, and I do like, Barb, your way of rolling in the air like this, to get a thing. It looks lovely.
But when I roll, usually I try to taper the ends, okay, so they're a bit thinner. Then when I plait, if it's a simple sort of plait, like a 3-strand, I could start in the middle, okay, right over left, left over right, you know, bringing them into the middle. Then and make a neat end. And then I would flip it over, okay, not just turn it round, but flip it over, and then do the other end from the middle to the tip. And that gives you a very nice shape. Okay.
Could we see your risen loaves?
Could you see my risen loaves? Well, they won't be yet. They've only been going for a very short while. Let me come out, pull this out. I'll show you how they're doing. No, as I say, slowly. I would expect it to be an hour at least before they rise up. But we'll have a look and see how it's doing, because I'm not putting it anywhere warm. In the old days, I would put it somewhere warm, okay? And voila, it's beginning to spread out and rise.
Yes, thank you.
But not yet. As I say, if I put it in a warming tray, then it would be risen very quickly. But I don't let things happen slowly. Just the exact opposite, really, of Barb's quick methods. I like to go slowly. Yeah?
That's lovely. Thank you.
It should double in size. Okay, once it's doubled in size and it's halfway up the glass, a good halfway up the glass, then I'm going to pop it into the oven. Give it another egg wash and pop it into the oven. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Well, this has been the most fantastic set of presentations for New Year.
I have a question.
Part of our Creative Thursdays thing. We've still got a couple of questions, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Off you go then.
I have a question about the pomegranate rolls. How long do you bake them?
Till it's cooked. I would think probably after 20 minutes, I'll keep an eye on it because I've never done these ones before, yeah? I would think probably 20 minutes. I'm going to keep an eye on it.
Okay.
And I'll know it's done when I'm getting nicely brown on top. And when I take it out and I tap its bottom, it sounds hollow.
And you let them rise? After you've formed them, you let them rise 1 hour?
Yeah, until they're double in size, until they're nicely swollen up. As I say, I'm not putting them anywhere warm. I'm keeping them, you know, just at coolish room temperature. Because of this idea that, you know, you can't make bread making isn't a fast thing. Traditionally, you just take your time. It's only with the commercial bakeries and things that people had to hurry and get things done, you know. So,
thank you.
Okay.
So one more question. I have just one more quick one. As you know, we make round challah for Rosh Hashanah, and I wondered if you had a particular plait that you use to make it round.
Personally, I tend to use the crisscross. I don't know. Is it possible to show the other?
For a second, and I'll just find it. Won't be.
Yeah. The rule for doing it, I usually just do either one strand or two strands, one strand up, one strand across, and then I will plait them around in a circle, as it were. If it goes under something at stage 1, then it goes over. If it goes under something at stage 1, it goes over something at stage 2. I guess I could get the dough out and. Do you want me to get the dough out and show how?
That's how I've always done those, and I just wondered if there was any other recommended.
If anybody wants me to get the dough out and show how to do it.
Yeah, do it. That'd be great.
Excellent. Good job.
And here's a picture of it while she's getting it out.
Right, I'm going to tilt this down again, if I can reach across. Whoa. Okay, you can see my table.
I'm going to quickly show a picture of what you're about to do, and then you can do it. So this is what we're going to see live.
Righty-ho. I hope the phone doesn't go again. It's a business company. It's a booking agency. They do things for film and TV people, and they've made bookings, and they've phoned me twice already this morning. I'm broigus at them. That's another word, broigus, fed up with them. 4 bookings they've made and 4 cancellations. So they're not my favourite agency at the moment, booking agency, you can imagine. Right, so, oh gosh, this is really is quite a sloppy dough. Okay, right, so I need to cut this into 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, right? Whoa, 1, 2. Oh. 3, 4. Do any of you make bread regularly or not?
Yes.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
Regularly.
Good.
very regularly.
Any of the old bakers being converted to making it regularly this morning?
Okay. Right, this dough, as you can imagine, has been mucked around with quite a bit, so, but I think it'll do. Come on, out you come. So what I'm doing as I roll it, I'm rolling and pushing and stretching, rolling, pushing and stretching. As I say, with it being so wet, I did put flour on. I actually prefer, I've got to confess, prefer putting oil on the table. Oh. Right, I think that's a long enough sausage for that one. Whoa. I'm going to have a go doing it Barb's way, which is like that, isn't it, Barb? Yeah? Or no, I don't know.
I don't know if it'll work on that dough. It's really...
No, it is very sticky. It's a very sticky dough. I probably added a bit too much water on this one. Come on, out you come. Out you come. So...
I'll give her a list in a few minutes.
But do you remember, Fiona, how I used to do the cookery demonstrations in the past for Skojek down in Stirling and places?
Yeah, you got much better in snacks when we used to do face-to-face cookery demos.
I got much better what?
The audience had much better snacks.
Oh, yeah, we used to put on the most wonderful buffets. You can't put on a Jewish event without having food, can you, really? We think. Funnily enough, some years ago, when it was going to be the Feast of Esther, and we were going to be reading the book of Esther rather, the Megillah, and I was up here on my own, and I didn't have a Megillah with me. I nothing to read. So I asked the local church whether I could just nip into the church and borrow a King James Bible just to read it, just to, do the best I could up here at that point. And they said, well, why, and I said, if anybody wants to come into my caravan and read it with me, they're very welcome. So the local church minister said, well, look, he said, why not? I'm sure our people will be very interested. So he said, why not put on an event at the back of the church, he said, and read it at the church, read it in the church. And I'm sure people would be interested. So I said, okay. I said, and of course, I'll put on a little kiddush. I'll put on a little buffet for the lunch, as well. So he was most embarrassed, or the church warden was most embarrassed. They had more people came to my reading of the book of Esther than they got at the church services. So, right. So I'm going to lay 1, 2 across. Can you see? One this way, but that's got to go under. Okay, over and under. Comme ça. I'm going to give it a little bit of space to rise. And this one's going to go, whoops-a-daisy, come on, you little sausage, under and over. Okay, right. So if there's one that goes under, it's got to go over. If there's one that goes over, it's got to go under. So are we ready? 1, 2, 3, go. I'll start down here. This one goes under, so he needs to go over. Comme ça. This one goes under, so he's got to go over. Okay, somebody at the side. This one goes under, he's got to go over. This one goes under.
Oh, right. That's how you do it.
Okay, now what shall we look at? Let's look at these two, and these two, and these two, okay? This chap here goes under, he's got to go over.
Oh, this is beautiful.
This chap goes under, he's got to go over.
Oh,
that's how you do it.
This chap goes under, he's got to go over. He's another over, he goes under, okay? This chap goes under, he's got to go over. And voila. Okay, so now we get Jake, we're back down to the cardinal points, north, south, east, and west, okay? So let's try again. Where can we go? This chap goes under, he's got to go over. This chap goes under, he's got to go over. This one's under, he goes over. This one's under, he goes over. And so it goes on. We can stretch and pull and whatever, but we're nearly getting there, okay? This one's an under, he goes over, and I think I'm going to tuck him in. This one goes under, he's going to go over there, and I'm going to just tuck him in. This one goes under, he goes over there, and tuck him in. This one goes under, he goes over, and I'm going to tuck him in. And there we have it. Okay, let me flower my hands a little bit again. Okay, so there we have got a nice sort of platter. You can, if I'd have made my sausages thinner and longer, I could have gone on and on and on. Okay, but that's the principle of that. Is that all right? Nice. That okay for everybody?
Yeah, so everybody please unmute. And I'd like you to give our two cooks a big round of applause.
Been a pleasure. Been a pleasure. Okay, so there we are. There we are. So I'm just sorry that, I mean, I should have had a been but you know, cook some earlier, but it just wasn't feasible, I'm afraid. And
nothing to be sorry about. Thank you so much to Linda, and thank you so much to Barb for an absolutely riveting and entertaining and fun morning.